Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. The second home of Count Ruttelberg, aka the Haunted Mansion. Counts, which rank under dukes and marquises, are nobles, yet due to past errors this family is quite poor. They barely have money to rent their homes, yet alone a second villa. The rusty gate, the cracked cobbles. The overwhelming darkness caused by wild, untrimmed trees. This truly looks the part of a haunted house. Or it did, until 2 weeks ago. Luciana tells her maid they'll be taking their tea on the terrace, making her friends gasp, the terrace? But when they follow her there, their surprise only deepens. Before them stretches a view that looks almost enchanted, as though the garden has transformed into a fairy kingdom overnight, nothing like what they remember, spacious and breathtakingly lovely. Luciana smiles faintly and gestures for them to sit, inviting them to have some tea. The moment they sip, their chatter fades as they drink in quiet awe, gulping down the mellow sweetness that seems to wrap around them like a silken blanket woven from spirited flowers. The smooth texture slips down their throats like silk, carrying a deep yet gentle flavor without the faintest trace of astringency. One of the girls finally breaks the silence, wide-eyed, asking if Luciana can really afford such fine tea, to which Luciana's lips curve as she replies that it is the same tea they always serve. Gasps ripple around the table, and another friend shudders, asking how that could be, how this ambrosia was brewed from the same leaves as that bitter stuff, making Luciana let out a light, knowing laugh as she explains that even low-quality tea can be transformed with the right brewing method. Their gazes drift to the maid, an unfamiliar face, but their curiosity soon melts into chatter again until one friend leans in, remarking that it's not just the tea, that Luciana has changed everything, her garden, her manner, the entire atmosphere, and demands to know what happened in just 2 weeks. Luciana says she's afraid she's not at liberty to say. One of them protests, telling her not to be such a tease before pausing to comment that she shouldn't talk like that, asking since when she sounds like that, and Luciana's smile stiffens for a heartbeat as she glances at her maid, thinking with quiet triumph that she nailed the voice like a princess or whatever, while her friends have no idea how hard she's worked to perfect it. Her friends giggle, saying it's all wonderful but that they still love her more laid-back self. Luciana laughs, genuinely pleased, and admits she's been perfecting this whole Miss Fancy Pants Luciana routine for the spring ball. It's their first debut into society. After seeing her friends off, her maid Celeste steps forward and gently reminds her that she should brush her hair before dinner. Luciana turns, her face warming, before she suddenly jumps into the maid's arms and exclaims her thanks. The maid staggers back, blurting that hugging one's maid is not proper. Luciana exclaims she knows but she can't help it, she's just so happy. The tea party never would have gone so well without her. The maid tries to free herself, insisting Luciana let go, but Luciana grins and says in her normal voice that she should let her touch her just for a quick moment. The maid gives her a look and asks where on earth she picked up such language, suggesting they might need to redo her etiquette training from scratch. Luciana throws her hands up in surrender, pleading for anything but that. To convince her, she quickly adds that she'll uphold her lessons when they're in public. The maid raises an eyebrow and asks if she promises. Luciana nods eagerly. With a resigned sigh, the maid relents, saying very well and tells her again to brush her hair. As the maid runs the brush through her long locks, she glances at her maid in the mirror and asks, curious, why she chose to work at a place like this. A girl like her must have had plenty of options. That was all there was to it, or so it seemed. Later, curiosity got the better of her, and little Ritsu looked up maids on the internet, kitchen maids, housemaids, parlor maids, there were so many types. A few days later, when her father returned home, she greeted him wearing a little maid's outfit of her own, grinning from ear to ear. He beamed at her, while her parents exchanged an amused glance, murmuring about how she had been so much livelier lately after a long spell of boredom. All the color that had once faded from her world seemed to be returning again. And so Ritsuko became a total maid junkie. She fixed her incredible mind on researching maids while dabbling in other studies as well. One day, she announced to her parents that she was going to study in England to become a maid. Years later, in her second life, the sight of a maid stirred something deep within her. In an instant, everything came rushing back, the plane crash, the fragments of memory, and the realization that, in this new life, she was Celeste McMartin. She has been reborn into another world. This is Anavalez, a border town in a country called the Kingdom of Theolos. It must be another world. She has never heard of such a place. Besides, this world has magic. More importantly, maids are a thriving profession in this era. This time she can be a maid for real. In this world, they become an adult at 15. Until then, she will have to trade in secret. But life wasn't on her side. Not long after, her mother passed away, leaving behind a letter. In it, she apologized saying she was sorry for dying and hoped her daughter would forgive her for leaving her behind. She wrote that she wished she could have spent more time with her, at least long enough to congratulate her for coming of age and for pursuing her dream of becoming a maid. Her mother went on to say she must be surprised how she knew, but of course she was her mother, she could never truly hide anything from her. She revealed that she herself had once been a maid too. In fact, that was how she had met her father. She had never told her before, but her father was the heir to a county. By now, surely, he would have inherited the title. The letter ended with two choices: she could go to her father and one day become a countess, or she could follow her own path and live as a maid, as she had always dreamed. Whatever she chose, her mother had written, she will be proud of her. But if she chose to be a maid, she could do her one last favor and be the best maid in the world. Tears welled in Celeste's eyes as she read, spilling down her cheeks until the words blurred. She cried out that she would be a maid, it had always been her dream. But just as she spoke those words, she noticed the candle beside her had gone out. Without thinking, she lifted a trembling finger toward it, and in that instant, the wick flared to life, light spilling across the room. She froze, staring at it in disbelief. Magic. It couldn't be. She had been told all her life that she had no magic. Then how could this be happening? She sank to the floor, her heart pounding, the realization sinking in. If she lost control, if this strange force burst out all at once, it could hurt people. Celeste has no idea that she has more power in her pinky finger than all the mages of the kingdom put together. In other words, her vast power reserve and ridiculously precise control over it would make most mages faint from shock. An exceptional genius will be an outliver wherever she goes. Celeste tries to use fire magic and wind magic at the same time and it works. She cannot believe such complex tasks are this easy to accomplish. Even after seeing it with her own eyes, she cannot fathom that she has so much magic. The power that Celeste acquired is such that, were it her desire, she could rule the world with an iron fist. Power of this scale was said to corrupt the hearts of men, to twist them toward the darkness that forever called from within. With strength like this, she could do anything, and that was the danger. It was a thought as seductive and corrupting as the devil himself whispering in one's ear. If she wished it, this girl could destroy the empire. But the thought that came to her wasn't of destruction. It was something far simpler, far purer. With power like this, maybe she really could become the best maid in the world. So she made her choice. She would turn this gift, this dangerous force, into her own special, maid's magic. And thus began the tale of the maid of all maids. Having renewed her determination to become a maid, she changed her hair and eye color and left town. This Count Cloud Legendbarth, the estranged father her mother mentioned in her letter. If, by some twist of fate, he wound up hiring her as a maid, he could very well forbid her from following that line of work the second he found out it was her. After so long an absence, she doubts he's looking for her mom, but better safe than sorry, as they say. This level of magical skill is typically impossible, but she does it on instinct. Plus all she's doing is bending the light around her hair with magic so it won't even get damaged. Meanwhile, two knights arrive at the mayor's residence. One of them, standing tall and composed, introduces himself as Sable, then gestures to his companion beside him and insists this is Lect. The mayor, his brow furrowed with unease, asks cautiously, what brings two knights of Count Legendbarth to such a small town as theirs? Sable tells him to keep this confidential before pulling out Celeste's mother picture and says they are searching for her by the order of his lordship. Recognition dawns on the mayor's face, and he murmurs that her name is Selena. Sable immediately leans forward and asks if he knows her. The mayor nods and says there is no doubt, the woman in the picture is Selena. Sable's eyes brighten as he says they have found her at last and that they can finally send his lordship some good news. But then the mayor's expression shifts, his face clouding over, and Sable notices it right away, asking what that look means and if there is something he is not telling them. The mayor hesitates before lowering his gaze and admitting that Selena has passed. He explains that an illness swept through the town about half a year ago. He mumbles an apology and then asks, if he may be so bold, why the count is searching for her. This time, Lect steps forward and warns this must not leave the room. Many years ago, Miss Selena and his lordship were deeply in love, but the previous count forbade them from marrying due to the woman's low birth. However, the count loves her still, and the second the previous count passed 5 years ago, he has been scouring the world for her. The mayor mumbles that this means Celeste is, but before he can finish, both knights stiffen and demand to know who that is. He admits she's Selena's daughter, and that sets off a chain of questions. Did Selena marry someone? Whose child is she then? How old is she? What does she look like? The mayor stammers through his answers. 15 years old, blue eyes like her mother, and hair a rare color of silver. The two knights exchange a sharp look at that, realization flashing between them. Later, in the neighboring country of Trendiviles, after hours of searching and finding nothing, they piece together what little they know. Silver hair like that should stand out anywhere. If no one's seen her, she's already long gone. Sable recalls the mayor's last words: she'd left to ease her grief, renting a stagecoach bound west. That was 2 days ago. By now, she's likely somewhere in Trendiviles, lost in the crowd. Sable mutters under his breath that there's no mistaking who she is, then swiftly mounts his horse. He tells Lect he'll head west and chase her down himself, ordering him to return home and report everything to the count. Lect never imagined things would unfold like this. The count must be told immediately, but the thought of delivering such grim news makes his chest heavy. Poor Lady Selena. As he walks through the bustling street, he notices a girl standing by herself, looking lost. Concerned, he approaches and asks if she's all right. When their eyes meet, something in him stills for a heartbeat, but her black hair throws him off, and he fails to recognize her. Celeste murmurs that she's trying to reach the capital but can't find where to board. He points out the way, and she flashes him a bright, grateful smile before hurrying off. He stands there for a moment, watching her go, wondering if she's traveling alone. It's a government-run carriage, he reminds himself. She will be safe. Pushing the thought aside, he steels himself. There's no time to linger. The count must be informed and he must return to the capital at once. Later, she shares a carriage with a well-dressed man who mentions that the Crown Prince was the one who came up with the idea for the public coach service. They began working on it 7 years ago, though he first proposed it a year before that. She tilts her head in surprise, saying the Crown Prince is her age, meaning he would have been only 6 at the time. Gosh, she says with a small laugh, there really are some amazing people in the world. The man chuckles and says she certainly knows many interesting things. He admits it has been delightful talking to her and that he's glad they were seated together. When he politely asks her name, she hurriedly replies, Melody. Melody Wave. Better safe than sorry, she thinks. She lied to the townsfolk about where she was headed, changed her appearance, and if she gives away her real name now, all her efforts will go to waste. The man leans back, commenting on how remarkably smooth the ride is. The roads here are in terrible condition, yet the coach hardly shakes at all. He wonders how on earth the coachman manages it. Celeste sneaks a glance out the window, murmuring softly it's time to recast her magic. She whispers her spell beneath her breath, ensuring the carriage remains steady. The man asks if she said something. She blurts no, just glad the ride's smooth. She gets motion sickness easily. When they finally reach the capital, the coachman is showered with praise for his incredible skill. The man turns to Melody, saying she mentioned wanting to become a maid. He suggests she visit the Commerce Guild. They help newcomers without recommendations find employment. She thanks him with a warm smile, saying that would be a great help. As she walks away, he finds himself standing there with his hand half raised in farewell, a wistful thought crossing his mind. He would have loved to hire her himself, though his father would never permit such a thing. Just then, a voice calls out from behind him, calling him Master Maxwell. Max says they should go. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, is awaiting his report on the western roads. The man stops him, saying, not so fast. Before they go, he has to tell him who he has decided to escort to the spring ball. Max exhales, sounding weary, and replies that he has no intention of escorting anyone. When the man persists, Max's tone hardens as he refuses flatly, saying he'll tell him only if he ever finds someone he truly wishes to invite. Meanwhile, Celeste arrives at the guild. She scans the board lined with job posters, but every listing she finds is for short-term work only. The Commerce Guild is a government-run organization. Initially it offered intel loans and additional aid to guild members who paid yearly fees. But about 6 years ago, they began helping non-members. This job placement system is just one of their many services. There is an offer for a laundry maid and housemaid. She does enjoy both of those, but if she is going to be the best maid in the whole world, she must know how to cook and help young ladies with their toilette, entertaining guests as well. Perhaps she could even build a lovely gazebo in the garden for tea time. She could also invent her own line of cosmetics and build fancy furniture. What this particular maid maniac thinks maids do does not necessarily reflect beauty. Just then, a woman approaches and tells her they've received new postings. Celeste perks up. New job listings might mean better options. She schemes through them, another for a chef, one for a gardener, and then her eyes catch on a notice for a female servant, a maid position in a noble household. She pauses. A maid position? Those usually require references. Yet here it is, exactly what she's been hoping for, an all-works maid. As the name implies, this maid does it all. Kitchen duties, laundry, cleaning, entertaining guests and all other necessary responsibilities. They are primarily hired by the lower nobility and middle-class commoners who cannot afford to employ numerous servants. It is an enormous amount of work, yet in status they are also the lowest-ranking type of maid, making the position double challenging. Managing a household alone, while grueling, is not impossible, but a noble's mansion? It is unthinkable. Yet the Ruttelbergs are offering just such a position. It seems like a mission impossible no matter how she looks at it, but Celeste's hands tremble with excitement. This is great. It is perfect. It is exactly the kind of position she has been searching for. Without a second thought, she hurries over to the woman and informs her that she would like to apply for the posting. As Celeste leaves, the woman watches her go and quietly remarks that she hopes the senior maid at Ruttelberg Manor is a kind person. Then she suddenly freezes, realization dawning on her. She turns to her colleague and asks if it is the same manor. Her colleague nods and replies that it is. The poor maid who used to manage the place injured her back and can no longer continue her duties. The Ruttelbergs may be nobles, but they cannot afford to hire anyone with proper references. Then again, they will be hard-pressed to find anyone willing to work there at all. The woman brings a hand to her mouth, horrified at the thought. She cannot believe she has just sent a cheerful, eager newcomer straight into what might be a trial by fire. Meanwhile, Celeste stands before the towering manor gates, gazing up at the shadowed building. A chill runs through her as she wonders if the mansion might be haunted. But then a smile breaks through Celeste's hesitation as she thinks to herself that this is such a tangible opportunity. She simply must be hired here, no matter what. If this is the front, then the servants' entrance should be nearby. Just as she starts to look for it, the sound of footsteps makes her turn. A girl approaches, asking who she is. For a moment, Celeste is struck speechless by Celeste's beauty, but the impression fades as she notices her tangled hair, dull skin, and worn-out dress. Still, she quickly shakes off the thought, this is hardly the time to dwell on appearances. Celeste straightens up and informs her that she has come regarding the job posting from the Commerce Guild, introducing herself as Malady. The woman is surprised, saying they just posted it yesterday, but then recovers and tells her they can talk in the dining room, grabbing her by the hand. As she leads her toward the front entrance, Celeste mentions that servants usually enter through the back, but Luciana insists it's fine as long as she has permission and that it's no issue. Luciana then looks at her and then introduces herself. She quickly adds that she knows she doesn't look the part, but she is the Count's daughter. Celeste gulps at the realization. Her boss. Luciana says she'll fetch some tea, but Celeste quickly protests, saying she can't possibly allow a noble to serve her. Luciana only smiles, insisting it's fine, she always makes tea herself, even at home. Celeste insists right back that she should be the one to prepare it instead, promising she'll make the most delicious tea in the world. When Luciana hands her some water, Celeste pauses and asks when it was drawn. Luciana replies that she took it from the local well yesterday, assuring her it's still fine. Celeste frowns slightly. This water isn't ideal for brewing and casts a spell to refresh it. Luciana's eyes widen in astonishment. She can use magic? She asks, unable to hide her surprise. Celeste nods and says her tea shall be ready. They want a percentage of dissolved oxygen, so water recently drawn from a well surrounded by good clean air is ideal. As hot water fills the pot, the dissolved air within initiates a convection motion causing the tea leaves to gently rise and fall. This is called jumping, and it extracts the flavors of the tea more efficiently. When Luciana sips the tea, she cannot hide her surprise. She exclaims it is so good and asks if it is even the same tea. She has always secretly hated this cheap tea they get, but now the taste, the scent, it is all different. Luciana doesn't think much about it, deciding it must simply be about brewing technique, and then asks if Celeste wants the job. Celeste eagerly says she does, prompting Luciana to smile and mention she will set it up right away. Before she can, however, Celeste asks if she might have a word with the housekeeper about her duties, making Luciana freeze in place. In a lowered voice, Luciana asks if she isn't aware, to which Celeste blinks in confusion and asks what she means. Looking uneasy, Luciana explains that the thing is it would be just her. Celeste, still not understanding, asks if she means there's only one opening or if there were other applicants. Luciana quickly shakes her head and clarifies that she means she would be the only one there, the only maid, the only servant, period. Celeste stares at her in disbelief, her voice soft with confusion as she repeats, almost to herself, that it would only be her. Luciana believes she is gonna turn it down, an educational institution in the capital, the Royal Academy for Higher Learning. There it is compulsory for noble children to attend for 3 years starting from the age of 15. Luciana Ruttelberg is no exception, having been accepted to the academy this year. Her parents were supposed to come with her to the capital, but due to some trouble in their territory, they ended up sending her alone. Waiting for her was a haunted house. The only staff member was an elderly maid, and soon even that maid. God Sake. Left to her devices, she convinced herself she will be fine. She did chores for herself back home all the time. The food Luciana had made tasted awful, and with so much dust around, she had fallen sick not long after. When Celeste asks if that means all the household tasks will fall to her, Luciana assures her that of course not, she should only do as much as she can manage, and anything left undone, Luciana will help with. Celeste beams at that, her face lighting up as she exclaims that it's wonderful news and asks if she can start right away. Luciana blinks, clearly thrown off by her enthusiasm, and hesitantly asks if she really doesn't mind, if she would truly be fine managing the entire mansion alone. Celeste answers with absolute delight, saying she was actually worried she might have to work as part of a team of all-works maids, so this is even better. Luciana can't help wondering why she looks so happy about it, while Celeste, inwardly cheering, thinks all that work will be hers. She's the happiest girl in the world. When she asks for her uniform, Luciana admits she doesn't have one prepared, prompting Celeste to simply cast a spell, and in an instant, a perfectly fitted maid's uniform forms around her figure. Luciana stares in shock, her mind blank as she wonders how on earth the girl managed to keep every crucial bit properly covered throughout that transformation. When Celeste spins once and asks with a bright smile if her new uniform is to her liking, Luciana can only stammer out that she looks great. Celeste is pleased by Luciana's agreement and remarks that when it comes to maid outfits, nothing beats the classics. Luciana, still a little dazed, admits she never knew magic could do that much, prompting Celeste to smile proudly and mention that she even placed a protection charm on it, stronger than most armor, in fact. Glancing around the dusty, neglected halls, Celeste declares that restoring the manor will be her top priority, though she quickly realizes she can't possibly handle everything alone. Her solution is simple: make herself not alone. With a flick of her hand, she summons several magical copies of herself, her body alter egos, and begins assigning tasks with brisk efficiency. Once everything is in motion, she decides to handle dinner. Outside, she conjures shimmering wings to carry her to town, but upon arriving, she finds the local market entirely out of their budget. Undeterred, she ventures into the nearby forest, gathering green mushrooms, wild fruits, and herbs, though she sighs that some meat would have made the meal perfect. Her wish is swiftly answered when a bird swoops overhead, giving her an idea. Channeling her magic, she skillfully hunts it down, though as she prepares it, she can't help but think the birds in this world are strangely large. Still, it's plenty of food. As the sky darkens, she realizes it's getting late and decides to take a shortcut home, summoning a glowing doorway that opens directly into the servants' entrance. Stepping through it with a satisfied grin, she thinks to herself that magic really is the best kind of time saver. Celeste hasn't known many other magic users, that is why her understanding of normal magic and insane magic is so skewed. Her mom had only one fire spell that she could only cast once a day and still she has no clue. Luciana watches as Celeste brings her food and apologizes for the wait. Luciana tells her she doesn't have to push herself, she must already be exhausted, but Celeste assures her it's no trouble at all. She smiles brightly and insists Luciana take a nice break and enjoy her tea, speaking with such energy that Luciana almost feels guilty for sitting down. Then Celeste thinks aloud that since she's on a break, she might as well use the bathroom too. Luciana points down the hall and says it's the one there, mentioning that most of the clearing in that area has already been finished. When Celeste leaves, Luciana looks around the now dazzling mansion, thinking to herself that Celeste sure works fast, and she's surprisingly detail-oriented for someone who just started today. But then her fingers brush against the wall and she pauses. There had been a huge crack there before. Now it's completely gone. Moments later, Celeste reappears, cheerfully announcing that she just finished cleaning the washroom. Luciana eyes her suspiciously, her mind racing as she tries to piece things together. Something is fishy here. She walks over to the kitchen, thinking she's really focused on cleaning right now, but will she even have time to cook dinner too? To make sure, Luciana quietly heads to the kitchen, but the moment she steps inside, she freezes. Her eyes go wide, her breath catching in disbelief. There are multiple Celestes working together in perfect sync, scrubbing, chopping, and stirring as if they've rehearsed it for years. The sight makes Luciana shudder. Later that evening, as she eats, she can't help but murmur how delicious the food is. She smiles and says she especially liked the main course, the grilled poultry with herbs. It's absolutely to die for. She admits she hasn't been able to afford meat in ages and asks with genuine curiosity if there was a sale. Celeste admits that she actually found the meat out in the woods. Luciana asks if she means by using magic like before. Celeste nods proudly and adds that the vegetables and herbs came from there too, saying she's glad they live so close to such an abundant forest. Luciana says the only forest nearby is the cursed Vandergrande and that place is certainly not fit for foraging. Celeste asks if there's really a cursed forest around here. Luciana says that there, and it's incredibly dangerous. She warns Celeste to never, under any circumstances, wander inside and makes her promise she won't ever go near it. Celeste quickly nods, admitting she'll be sure to avoid it. What neither of them knows is that she has already walked out of that very forest. Luciana's expression softens into a smile as she thanks her for today, saying she's truly glad Celeste came to work for them. It already feels like the mansion has come back to life. Meanwhile, His Majesty receives urgent news that there was an intruder spotted in the Great Vandergrande forest, leaving him frozen in shock as the words sink in. The Vandergrande wood, one of the largest blights on the magical world, teeming with magical creatures called monsters, which only powerful spells can damage. Though there are many such cursed lands, this forest is especially dangerous and has been sealed away to keep the monsters in and unwitting travelers out. His Majesty asks the man if the intruder is still in there, but the messenger replies his wards have not detected anything leaving the area. What they do not know is that the intruder already left through a dimensional wormhole. The king then orders to send more soldiers to the region, and to have them scour the words for anything out of the ordinary and to stay vigilant. He also orders the messenger to keep a constant eye on their sensing wards for even the slightest change. He then murmurs almost to himself, just who could this mysterious intruder be? He is a maid. Meanwhile, Luciana tells Celeste she wants to invite her friends for a tea party. She wants to show them they have changed. Celeste is thankful that she managed to catch a beast today. Now that she has a favorite sport, she uses her dimension door for both ingress and egress. And she has no idea that she is coming and going out of the forbidden forest as she pleases. Luciana thinks for a moment before saying the two girls she wants to invite are her childhood friends. Lady Miliaria, the daughter of Baron Fahrenkult, and Lady Beatrice, the daughter of Baron Lillardkruz. Their homes are on the land next to their own. Their families bought that land from the man who was the count 2 generations prior to her father when his business failed. Since their family was having trouble paying their debts, it was actually a kindness on their part. But for some reason their generation's count was accusing them of stealing their land. Luckily the title of count was quickly passed to her grandfather who made peace with the barons. So they managed to avoid the awkward predicament of having two enemies right across the fence from them. Ever since, their three families have been very close friends. But she left a terrible impression at the very last party and now she has to fix it. Luciana glances at her with bleeding eyes, making her finally agree. Later, Luciana stands before the mirror, looking completely different from before. Celeste arranged her hair and used the spells of hers to make her this beautiful dress. Now Luciana can invite them without feeling insecure. In fact, she wants to invite them. Celeste suggests a week from now on for the tea party. Luciana throws herself into her arms and exclaims her gratitude. Celeste chastises her that she must not hug her maid. It's not proper. But Luciana reminds her, she knows she likes it, and not to be so cold. Celeste grumbles where on earth did she learn such language, making her smile wider and say sorry. Celeste then mumbles she has her work cut out for her if she is going to train her in time for the party. Luciana asks train her for what? Celeste's lips curl into a devilish smile as she declares she'll teach her to speak like a lady. It was right then that Luciana realized the Pandora's box she had unwittingly opened. Mizunami Ritsuko was a one-in-a-generation genius. Had she not died young, her innate ability and diligence would have surely secured her a permanent place in human history. Why? Because of her force of will. In short, once Ritsuko puts her mind to something, it will get done. Since mids were her fixation, she exerted incredibly strenuous amounts of effort to learn everything about them. Since that is the norm for her, her teaching methods are a Spartan-level harsh. On the bright side, at least Luciana's lady powers finally bloomed as a result. After much ado, the tea party is only a day away when a maid accidentally spills something on Celeste's dress. Despite Celeste's insistence that it's fine, the maid panics and insists on taking her to the mansion she works at nearby, saying she will draw a bath for her immediately. They have to wash the uniform now, or the stain will set. Celeste follows, thinking perhaps the maid serves a baron or a knight, given how modest the mansion looks. Later, she stands in a guest room, wrapped in a towel, wondering in mild exasperation why she's completely naked for something so trivial. Eventually, she gives up questioning it and sinks into the warm bath, sighing as she murmurs that the bathing customs in this world never fail to weird her out. The bars are all Western ceramics. Yet the bathing process is more Eastern. People sit on a stool and wash before even getting in, like in Japan. The sort of maid jobs available feels closer to England in the later half of the 19th century. But this world is more like medieval Europe and has magic. Yet all the bathrooms look just like those in Japan. This world was cobbled together with all the best parts of human history. Now that she thinks about it, it has been a while since she has been in a bath. She didn't have to draw herself. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to let her disguise slip for a moment. Her blonde hair spills out and her original eye color returns. She looks at herself and says hello mother. She has missed her. She has the same eye color as her mom. She tells her mother she did it. All that is left is to keep working until she is the best in the world. But she wonders what she will have to do to qualify. What does she mean? She wonders, best in the world. It was her mother's final wish, but what was she feeling when she wrote those words? Well, whatever it takes to be the best. One thing is for sure, she's not reaching the top unless she can perform every conceivable duty of a maid. For now this all-works maid position at the Ruttelberg mansion is the best way to do it. After all, she may have some self-taught knowledge from her past life, but she's still a newbie. This is the first actual maid job she has ever done. She only just got her qualifications too. She just has to keep building experience and one day she will fulfill her promise to her mother to be the very best. The bath has done wonders for her mood and it warmed her too. Now that she has had a nice bath, she supposes she should ask Paula for her uniform back. She opens the door and steps out only to freeze at the sight of a man standing before her, just as naked as she is. For a heartbeat, neither of them moves, both staring in absolute shock. Then, with a startled gasp, Celeste instinctively casts a spell, and the man vanishes on the spot. A flustered scream escapes her as she grips the towel tighter, mumbling, "What's with that man? What kind of degenerate barges into a bathroom without even knocking? It's like he thinks he owns the place." Moments later, Paula bursts into the room, alarmed by the noise, asking what happened. What she doesn't know is he does own the place. Meanwhile, the Count informs Lectus that he wants him to attend this year's spring ball. Lectus stiffens in surprise and tries to protest, saying he's only a humble knight, surely his presence wouldn't even be noticed. The Count tells him not to be foolish. Every year that he's absent, he gets countless complaints from women asking where he is. Besides, this is the year the Crown Prince enters the academy as a new student. It's imperative that he needs to be there to celebrate. Lectus looks like he wants to argue, but finally relents with a sigh. After all, the Count is his superior, he can't exactly refuse. Still, he can't help thinking how much he'd rather switch places with Sable. At least then he'd be in another country instead of dealing with nobles and their endless formalities. The Count, watching him, hides a satisfied smirk behind his composed expression. Perfect, he thinks. With Lectus at his side, the number of women throwing themselves at him should lessen. Most of the eligible ones will likely redirect their attention to Lectus instead. Though he makes it sound like he's sending him for some noble reason, it's painfully obvious he's just using his knight as a human shield. Then, as if to add insult to injury, the Count tells him he should also bring a date to the ball. Lectus flinches, asking if that's really necessary. The Count reminds him dryly that he's already explained those women become positively vicious when they set their sights on something. If they see him without a woman on his arm, they'll swarm him like bees to honey. His tone softens then, and he murmurs that if only his daughter had been found in time. He admits he was hoping Lectus could have been her escort, adding almost wistfully that he would have made a fine bodyguard for her. But then he shoots him a glare and says he cannot imagine he would be foolish enough to ever lay a hand on her. Would he? After the report of Selina's death and the existence of her daughter Celeste, one of the Count's men familiar with the neighboring country where Celeste was rumored to have fled was dispatched to find her, but there has been no word since. That's because she never actually went there. Seeing as she is the child of a Count and his servant born out of wedlock, this search continues in secret to avoid exposing her to scandal. They never expected her to be in the same city as them, under the same stretch of sky, working cheerfully as a maid. Her father wonders what she is doing right now and hopes she is not in danger. Back in the present, Lectus finds himself sitting on the sofa, completely dazed. The image of her flashes vividly in his mind, those blue eyes, that silver hair, and his heart stirs with shock. He's finally found her. But then she appears before him again, hair now black and unfamiliar. Confused, he studies her face, wondering if he imagined it all. Maybe it was just a dream. He mutters that he knows her, making her flinch. She shudders, bracing herself for the worst, but instead, he simply says she's that young lady who was trying to get to the capital, right? When he mentions their brief encounter, she instantly recognizes him too. Before she can respond, Paula enters the room, and Lectus turns to her, asking why on earth he's sleeping out here. Paula sighs and tells him he really doesn't remember, does he? She reminds him that she said she was going to introduce him to a friend of hers. He came into the parlor to wait for them. But by the time they joined, he was fast asleep. He looks completely clueless and says he guesses he's more tired than usual. What he doesn't know is that of course it is a bald-faced lie. The electric attack solicitor used was Memory Wiper. It uses an electric shock to remove select parts of one's memory as the spell is still in development. Its actual efficacy and duration are still unknown. But thankfully, Paula was there to smooth things over when Lectus woke up. Paula then introduces Celeste as Melody and says they just met today. She bows in front of him and says it's lovely to meet him. He watches her thinking she's so pretty, just a simple greeting, yet her every move and word carries such grace. Lectus recalls the Count's instructions. He didn't care who his partner was, only that Lectus find someone suitable to accompany him, someone who knew how to behave in public. The words echo in his mind as he watches her quietly. Should he really ask her? Count Rudolberg's land, situated in the northern region of the kingdom, was once among the largest territories in the nation. But when the previous count suffered a major financial failure, most had to be sold off, thus sparkling the Rudolberg's legacy as broke nobles. Over a few decades, the family's debt was finally paid off, but they remained quite poor. However, even in their impoverished state, the count's commitment to his domain's inhabitants won him considerable support from the local populace. Last year's crop failure, for instance. The Count's efforts to lower taxes to prevent the people from starving to death are still fresh in the memories of those he saved. And now, for his devotion to his people, he was appointed to the Lord Chancellor's office, the highest administrative body of the kingdom. The current family head who knows what it means to be poor is named Hughes Rudolberg. As Luciana's parents arrive at the mansion, they stop dead in their tracks, staring up at it in disbelief. For a moment, they actually wonder if they've come to the wrong place. Celeste stands at the entrance to greet them with a graceful bow, and the couple exchanges a bewildered glance. Just then, Luciana rushes out, beaming at the sight of her parents. Her father looks relieved, saying it eases his heart to see her well and that he had worried about sending her to the capital alone. However, Luciana's joy quickly fades, and anger clouds her expression as she pushes her father, who stares in confusion. She tells him she has no intention of doing any lasting harm, but he deserves at least that much for what he has done. When he asks what he means, she glares and says she is talking about this mansion. She accuses him of sending her to a crumbling wreck without even checking its condition. Her father, looking around, protests that the mansion is beautiful, while her mother, equally stunned, agrees and says she's surprised that it is even theirs. Luciana exclaims that is because Melody fixed it. If it were not for her, they would be stuck in a haunted spider-filled dump. Celeste smiles and tells them it is lovely to meet them. Both of them watch her with curious looks before turning to their daughter and notice she looks like a literal princess. Offended, she says they only noticed now. Her mother then asks where did she get that new dress. Luciana replies it is not new, it is the same hand-down she gave her last year. Her mother says it most certainly is not, but she insists it is. Melody cleaned up for her. She should have her do the same for her clothes, too. Shocked, her mother asks how did she clean it up. Celeste averts her gaze and hastily changes the subject, saying the lunch is ready. Luciana gestures for her parents to follow her, saying she will explain everything in more detail over lunch, and shoots a sharp glare at her father, telling him to think about what he's done. Her father recalls that the maid here used to be an older woman and asks if she hired a second maid. Luciana explains that the original maid retired due to a bad back and that Melody took over for her. He then asks who just finished making lunch. Luciana replies, Melody, of course, who else? Both parents look bewildered and her father protests that Melody was with them all along. Luciana mutters that she hasn't needed to do this in a while, but she asked Melody to do this today to minimize the explanations she'd have to give. He asks do what? And soon his curiosity is answered. On the table, there are 3 of them. Her father, voice shaky, asks if they are triplets. Luciana tells him to give it a minute, he'll stop trying to figure it out soon. One by one, a wild wine glass melody appears, a wild hors d'oeuvre melody appears, and for the second time that month, the Ruttelberg mansion erupts in screams. A few days later, Celeste asks Luciana if she is quite sure she has everything. Luciana replies she took everything out of her bag and repacked just to double-check. Her mother says they wish they could take her along, but they will tell her all about how brave Luciana was later. Luciana protests that it is just an unrest ceremony. She is fine. In no time at all, Celeste was a regular part of the Ruttelbergs' family. Returning to the mansion after seeing them off, Celeste feels a quiet relief, glad that the Lord and Lady have accepted her and notices she's slowly getting used to the rhythm of her new job. She reminds herself she must finish cleaning the room before their return, but when she reaches the table, her eyes fall on the Royal Academy admission certificate, the official notice stating it must be presented on the day of entrance or they risk being denied attendance. Her mind drifts back to her past life, remembering the plane ride when 2 strangers asked if they could sit next to her. She had been surprised that their parents allowed them to travel abroad at such a young age to go on a couple's trip, but they quickly explained they weren't a couple and were part of a group tour. Asakura had pulled out her game pad at the time, explaining it was a sweepstakes prize, a first-edition version of a popular game along with 2 tickets for a UK tour. Kurita had volunteered to be her +1, her chaperone, since his little sister had wanted to go but their parents refused to let 2 underage girls travel alone overseas. This game, The Silver Saint and the 5 Oaths, is a romance simulation game aimed at women, particularly popular among junior high and high school girls. After her mother dies, the heroine is taken in by her father and suddenly thrust into the role of a count's daughter from her previous life as a commoner. She is ordered to enroll in the Royal Academy in the capital, where she encounters and experiences a variety of situations. That story starts on the day of the school entrance ceremony. Christopher, one of the main love interests of the main character, bumps into the heroine and the rest of the story falls into place from there. As Christopher bumps into her, he apologizes and asks if she is all right. Celeste mumbles she was in such a hurry that she didn't see him. Christopher studies her for a long moment before clearing his throat and apologizing, admitting he must have mistaken her for someone else, and then asks what a maid is doing in a place like this. Celeste explains that she has come to deliver something her lady left at home, and he points toward the waiting room. Before she leaves, she pauses and asks if he is a freshman too, noting that it might be late if he doesn't hurry. Christopher smiles politely and assures her he will be there soon. As she departs, Max spots him and calls out, agitated, asking what he is doing there. Christopher casts him a sharp, irritated glance. Max reminds him that he must go to the ceremony immediately, as he is scheduled to give the student speech this year, but Christopher refuses, insisting he cannot leave because he must wait in that spot for her. Max protests, pointing out that the Marquis' daughter is already in the hall and that she is his prospective fiancée, but Christopher only shakes his head, saying he is not referring to her. Even if he allowed it, His Majesty would not approve. Muttering under his breath about the freaking heroine, the saint, He notes that she is not present, and instead he has only run into a dark-haired maid, unexpected and striking, but not the silver-haired heroine he anticipated. Just then, Anna appears asking if there is a problem. She smiles at her fiancé Christopher and reminds him that he cannot miss the ceremony, emphasizing its importance. Internally she snaps at him. How did he miss the freaking heroine while in this? In his defense, he wants to say he was exactly where he was supposed to be and she didn't show up. Kurita and Asakura, now known as Christopher and Anna Marie, knew what world they were in. Both retained their past memories, including information about the Otomo game they once played, the Silver Saint and the Five Oaths. Just the fact that if things keep going as they are, a certain demon king sealed away a long time ago would be resurrected. Without the saint, the heroine of the story, the whole world would be destroyed. Christopher, panicking, says he's telling them he was waiting for the heroine and she didn't come. What do? If they do not fix this, everyone will die. Max thinks if it were not for the episodes like this, he would be the perfect heir to the throne, while Mary thinks she cannot believe this guy is the main love interest. This Otomo game, the story set in this fantasy world, didn't ever start, or it did, just without any heroine to guide it. Meanwhile, Luciana cries out that it turns out she needs an escort for the ball tonight or she cannot go. Every year on the night of the Royal Academy's entrance ceremony, an event called the Spring Ball is held so the children of noble families may make their social debut. Luciana Hooters, 15 this year, is making her own debut this very night. However, the Spring Ball has one rather peculiar rule, which is that all young women making their debut must be accompanied by a male escort. Celeste says she doesn't recall Luciana's parents mentioning anything like that. Luciana says that is because apparently men can go alone, and at the time her mother was already dating her father, so neither of them had to think about all of this, so they forgot it was a rule. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.